What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today's gonna be a little bit different than usual. We're not doing our normal installs that you usually see on the channel, but we're actually gonna be talking about 5 things I hate about my Dodge Charger. Now keep in mind, I love this car, but there's a few things I think that Dodge could have done a little bit better to like spice up the car overall. That being said, with the 5 things I do hate about this car, I am going to make a video about 5 things I love about this car, which is going to be a lot easier than this one. This one I really had to kind of nitpick things that I didn't like, or look at like future problems I'm going to run into so that I can come up with this list. Again, this list is going to be things that I don't like about this car. It might be different for other people, but this is just my personal opinion. But let's get into the video. So the first thing I hate about this car is actually the tires that came on this car. I got stuck with the Goodyear 245, 45, 20, and honestly, they were not enough for the car and the amount of power it puts down. Off the lot, you can either get the 245s all the way around, and you usually get a square setup either way, or you can get lucky and get the 275s. I've talked to a few people who've been running that 275 size tire, and they say they don't have much of a problem with traction. Obviously, when you floor it, it's going to be an issue, but they said that it's a lot better than the size that I had. The first thing I noticed while driving this car is that it's super easy to lose traction, especially with smaller size tires like this. Leaving a red light, driving in the rain, those are all situations where I've lost traction before, and it's kind of scary at times. So the first thing I wanted to do was get rid of those tires and put on some bigger size tires. Sadly, I had to get rid of some basically brand new tires and put on some new tires just for my own safety and just so I could have a little bit more fun on the roads and actually get traction. So now I'm running the Toyo Proxys STs in a size 295/45. I just went bigger in width so that in situations like me driving on the highway, I can actually put the power down in whatever gear that I'm in and it won't be much of an issue. Now, I'm not sure how it is if you get the upgraded tire package on the car. I wasn't lucky enough to get it. I got stuck with those 245s that I mentioned. That's one of the main things I hated about this car when I first got it. I'm glad that I was able to change those tires out, at least in the rear, so it's not one of my pain points anymore, and I can actually have some fun. So the second thing I hate most about this car is actually regarding the exterior again. Some of you may not agree with me on this one, and some of you might find this a little bit stupid, but this is just my personal opinion. But I hate the fact that there's not a market for wide body kits for this car. So there is a few smaller companies that make fender flares for this car, like Vicrez, but that's not something I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of the over fender style that completely changes the look of the car. It goes over the panels of the original stock OEM parts, and there's not many options out there. There's a company called Shirokai, but they're way overpriced. I think it's $5,000 for a kit. And originally, I think before COVID, they were only $3,000. So before that, it was a great deal. But now it's a little too expensive. But other than them, there's no other options for this car. Overall, the exterior modification market for this car is absolutely lacking. And I wish I knew that before I actually bought the car, because my goal is to build it as much as possible, make it as unique as possible, and I really don't want to keep it stock at all. If you do know a company that makes that over fender style kit for this car, please comment it down below, because I've been looking for a while and I honestly do not know of any other companies other than Shirokai that does them. So please let me know down in the comments. But yeah, that's the second thing I hate about my Dodge Charger. So I'm sitting in the car now, and you can kind of take a guess that the third thing I hate about this car is actually parts of the interior. I'm not gonna say the entire interior, because there's a lot of things I do like, but there's pieces of it that kind of just tick me off just a little bit, and I definitely think Dodge could have done a better job at creating these parts of the car. For one, this portion of the dash, as you can see, it's super bland and just plain. There's no kind of design aspects going on here. There's no secondary colors anywhere in the car. Everything just kind of the same tone of this dark gray, black, and this silver. And even on the doors, I think the most design that they put in was the small stitching that goes in the door cards. And it's one of the things that I just think they could have added at least red or blue or something a little bit different to kind of make it pop just a little bit more, but they definitely were lacking on parts of the interior. Another thing that I'm not a fan of in terms of the interior are the seats and the design. They just have this small Scat Pack logo and this weird design that I really don't like at all. I'd rather them have it completely black or something else. I really don't like that at all. The overall feel of sitting in the chair, they're super comfortable, and I've done a few long road trips with this car and I have no problems with it at all. It's just more of the look and the styling of it for me. Even if you look at the special edition ones, I think they come with the red seats sometimes, or they have the black and the red seats. Even those, in my opinion, do not look good at all. They could have added a few more small details in the interior to make it stand out just a little bit more, but it's one of the things I don't like about this car at all. The fourth thing I actually hate about this car is actually the spoiler, and it's kind of a different reason than you might think. I think it looks great and I think it looks super aggressive with the wicker bill, but the only downside is that there's no other options for different wings for this car. Either you get this wing or you get the small little tiny step lip that comes on the RTs. And once you have this, I know everyone upgrades to the wicker bill and everyone is running the exact same style spoiler, and that's one of the main things I do not like. According to my research at least, and again, if you see other wings online, please let me know down in the comments below, but according to my research, the only other company that makes another wing for this car is Shirokai, and that gets rid of this piece and the wicker bill, and it kind of molds in kind of, I think it's more of a duckbill style rather than a wicker bill. But whether you're driving on the road or looking up cars on Instagram, every Dodge Charger is running a wicker bill, and they're just different sizes and different shapes, but most of them will resemble one another. Kind of the things I don't like, because there's no way for you to be unique and have your own style with this car and this spoiler. If I could, I would take this off right now just because everyone else is already running it, but there's no other option for me to go at this point. I am leaning towards that Shirokai duckbill in the near future, but the only reason I'm kind of hesitant on that because it needs to be paint matched and riveted into the actual trunk. What I will say is that it does not look bad at all. It looks absolutely amazing, but it kind of goes back to the problem I had with the wide body kit. There's no market for this kind of stuff for this car, and I wish I knew that beforehand, because I'm definitely the person who wants to mod this car as much as possible. I want it unique as possible, and this kind of stops me from doing so. And the last thing I hate about this car, and I know this is something that a lot of you who drive this car or who have driven this car will agree with me on, but it's the weight. This thing weighs almost 6,000 pounds, and they don't call it a boat for no reason. It's a legitimate boat. You have to do a lot of preventative mods to mitigate that body weight roll and things like that when you're cornering. So that's why I went ahead and added the strut tower bars in the front and in the rear. But overall, the car is just way too damn heavy. That even translates over to the braking. When you're going real fast in this car and you have to brake very suddenly, my 4-piston Brembo brakes will still not slow this car down fast enough, and those are Brembo brakes. Now, if you're lucky enough to be running the 6-piston Brembo brakes, you are a lucky person, and I'm jealous. But in my case, those 4 pistons are not enough, and there's been a few times where you can definitely feel the brakes warping over time because of the amount of pressure you had to put down to stop this car. That also translates over into driving in the snow and driving in the rain. In the rain, as I mentioned, this car will slip and lose traction very easily, and one is because it's rear-wheel drive and the weight is kind of mostly in the front of the car, not too much in the back, so you would lose traction there. In the snow, the car is just too damn heavy and way too rear-end happy to drive anywhere in the snow. There's also not many options to kind of reduce the weight for this car. I think the sunroof option and the regular option, which I have the hard top with no sunroof, they weigh about the same. They're probably a few pounds difference. There's no kind of rear seat deletes for this car. There's no different spec of this car that gives you reduced weight. There is a Hellcat, but then they just give you more power to help with the weight, but that's not something I was looking for. In my opinion, 700 horsepower is way too much. I'm cool with the 500, and I plan to keep it like that for a little bit longer, a lot bit longer. But that's actually one of the things I hate about this car the most. It's the weight. Now, if this car was any lighter than it is, I pray for the rest of you cars on the road, this car would be an absolute monster, as it already is. But with that reduced weight, I'm sure it could be even faster than it already is. And who knows, maybe we'll find a way to reduce the weight by a few thousand pounds one day. A man can dream. So all in all, those are the 5 things I hate about this car, and honestly those are not things that would have stopped me from buying this car originally. Those were just things that I would have liked to known beforehand. One was the tires, they were too small. The interior definitely needs some added details to spice it up just a little bit. There's no market for wide body kits, and there's no market for a spoiler. And then the weight is, I mean, the car is a huge car and you can't help it, but again, the bigness of it, it's large. This big bone car, if you want to call it that, is definitely what makes the car look so nice and special. It looks aggressive everywhere it goes, and it's because it's so big, and then obviously it translates over to the weight. But as I mentioned, I love this car, and there's not many other cars I would have picked over this one. You know, if you're looking at an F80 M3, that's a different story. But I'm glad I got this car, and hopefully you guys will see a video soon on the 10 things I love about this car, because, you know, the 5 was hard to make, but I'm sure it's going to be very easy to come up with 10 things I actually like about this car. Also, stay tuned for the next few upgrades for the car. We got some exciting things coming. Hint, hint. One of them revolved around this, and I actually got a roof wrap for the car, just so I can gloss black this out. One thing I don't think I've shown you guys at least yet is the new add to the engine bay. So as you can see, this looks like carbon fiber. It's not real carbon fiber, it was hydro dipped, but it looks amazing, especially with the red. It's not too out there. It's super subtle, so it's, when you open up the hood originally, you can't really tell, but when you get close, it's definitely a nice detail to notice in the engine bay. I did this a little while ago, I just never got to showing you guys, and kind of forgot about it because you never really open up the hood and see it. So that's some of the plans I have in store for the next few weeks. Definitely stay tuned, subscribe. Go follow me on IG. I've been posting some nice photos on IG of the car, trying to get my photography skills up there, learning from my boy Yusuf, who did the night run video. So gonna be working with him, trying to up my skills, and definitely post more better content on the car. So subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.